Streaming now on IWTV. Action Wrestling. Check our schedule for all upcoming Action Wrestling events scheduled to stream live on IWTV. Watch over 90 Action Wrestling shows on demand anytime, featuring AC Mack, Adam Priest, Alex Kane, Cruel, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host, JP John Posh from the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the Dr. M himself, Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Now, John, this name wasn't changed on a whim, you know.
I have a feeling I know who changed it. That's what I have a feeling. That it was somebody from UFC, possibly, that changed it.
Exactly. And we'll talk about it a lot more extensively on the Ultimate Fighters podcast. If you haven't heard that, check it out weekly on the road to the White House fight. But Campbell McLaren joined my sports and politics course this week at the City College of New York. He had so much to say. He got started even before class started. And we were off and running. It was such a great learning opportunity. So I'm very grateful. Campbell, actually, he bought the book on his own and was bringing it. I was like, oh, okay, I was going to bring you one. But he said, can you sign mine? And I said, I was thinking the same. If you sign, even though it's my book, if you sign my book, that would be amazing too. So on his, I wrote the book, you wrote the story. Thank you. And on mine, he wrote, Dr. M, that's your fight name.
Nice.
So I was like,
love that.
Who else can have such an honor? And I did get, I'm not sure if I should share this, but I didn't ask if it's on the record, but I don't think there's any concern later. Campbell shared that when we were on the way to the elevator, that once he left the UFC, this was the late 90s, he actually interviewed with Vince McMahon for the creative director position.
Wow. Damn,
So
that's crazy. I literally never heard that before. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. He said he's good friends with Paul Heyman. I'd imagine this is the time of the Russo transition, right? Like, so maybe that's when he got a call, because that seems like about that time.
Bro. Taking over, bro. Now, it's so interesting, just to throw this out there, just because I thought it was funny. A friend of mine claimed that he knows more about UFC than you, right? So I'm setting it up. I'm like, oh yeah, you guarantee, right? You know more than Lavie about UFC, right? Got your picture. I was setting him up for this, Lavie. Keep this in mind. I was setting him up. Got your picture with Campbell. I go, oh yeah, he's teaching it at a college with the co-founder of the UFC. Game, set, match. Lavie wins. I was like,
thank you,
yes.
John.
I set him up and I knocked it down. It was great.
Are they doubting me in New Jersey, John?
They are. They were doubting it, and then guess what? Hasn't mentioned it since. He shut up about it. So yes, he knows he got on that one. Nice.
Does this friend? Is he like all in on the modern stuff, and then doesn't know much about the history?
Yes, claims he knows about the history, but a little too young when it went down. Doesn't do his research, doesn't do his homework, but he's way more into the modern stuff. Yes.
I'll cut a promo on them now. If you're listening in New Jersey right now, you think you know the UFC. I bet every time the title changes or there's an interim title, you probably call them the GOAT. Well, you know nothing. Were you there for Dirty Harry Moskowitz during the dark days? Well, I was. I would go to FYE, Roberta's Video City, right next to her Nail City. I would get the VHS tapes. I would be there. I was at UFC 41 in Atlantic City. I have a Tank Abbott casino chip. What do you have?
Wow, Lavie, awesome. I love it. Yes, nice. Old school promo there. I love that. Great stuff. But Lavie, let's get into it. Let's get serious for a minute here, because we're about to go to war. Believe it or not, and people might be shocked to hear this, but a wrestling war started. It has nothing to do with WWE. Or does it on the underneath, on like under the surface? Does it have to do it? So what I'm basically talking about right now is TNA versus AEW. Do we have a war on our hands? Because honestly, it seems like we do.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure, John. I want to figure it out with you, because some things sort of make sense, some things don't. I think the most direct evidence, and the thing that probably we could focus on at the moment, is TNA pulling talent from various shows where they were going to wrestle AEW talent, most notably at the WrestleCon Super Show, in which TNA was cursed out, FTNA. I don't want you have to put an explicit warning on this one, John.
Yeah.
But TNA fans are so funny. They're like, wait till there's a TNA show and the fans chant F WrestleCon Super Show. That would be something. It wouldn't exactly roll off the tongue. And sorry, not to go dark on the TNA fans, but the TNA fans have been snitching on people. They tried snitching on, or at least one fan tried snitching on Santana, who was giving a shout out to Ricochet, and they wrote like, Carlos Silva, isn't this against the rules to tweet about other talent? And sort of like, if they could keep Santana, they should be thrilled. I don't think Carlos Silva is going to be monitoring his tweets unless it's something like stupid like a Ricochet would do, which no one else would do. So in terms of a partner asking them to do that, I guess if anyone would ask them to do it, WWE makes sense. But I think we talked about this last time, that it's not fair of TNA to do this, to tell someone that they can do it and then pull it back. But if you are going to do these restrictions on your talent and you have them under contract, it has to be clear to them what type of independent contractors they are and where they can wrestle and so on, or you have to pay them a full-time salary. Like I talked about last time, I think that it's a smart move for a company like TNA. I know, finances, you can't do whatever you want, but to sort of like have talents that are unique, that aren't floating around everywhere, that you can't just get on a Triller plus Super Show, and because it actually makes you look better if you have your talent sort of exclusive to you. Now there's, sometimes opportunities where it raises the bar for everyone, and unique moments like that. So you don't want to be totally restrictive. So that's one thing. So I think that's like probably the main friction there. I don't think that AEW having to bump its show to the same night as TNA on AMC, like that's just programming. They're not trying to set it up, and TNA held up pretty well. And then what was the third thing, John? That the double booking that we actually have the picture of here. June 28th, 2 shows, Slammiversary and Forbidden Door. At the same time, Slammiversary in Boston.
Slammiversary was announced first, correct? Am I right on that? That was okay. It was okay.
What was interesting, and somebody had a good perspective on it, is Slammiversary was announced first, but San Jose is, it's more of a I don't know if it's an A building, but I think it's a pretty prestigious building. And you'd have to book that well in advance. So I think that while TNA announced it first, I do agree with the theory that AEW had it first. So that's, but one not looking out for the other, like, it's just not smart business. TNA fans are like, I'm gonna order TNA, so forget about them. But obviously the Forbidden Door, not only for AEW fans, it appeals to New Japan, and then whatever percent of Stardom fans. Yeah,
CMLL. Yep.
CMLL. I can see, like, if you love the Stardom product, I don't know, like, they're throwing you like a little bit of a bone there. I don't know if you like would need to watch the show, but of course the Forbidden Door does have a certain appeal to it and a certain draw that even AEW doesn't have itself, except for like some of its biggest shows.
To me, if Slammiversary is announced first, you would kind of think maybe somebody else would announce in the same day as far as doing the show. But I do like, from a certain aspect, a little bit of like Bischoff WCW stuff, or even old school Vince. Like, oh, I'm going to book a show the same day. Like, I in a weird way, I love that for like the competitive balance, and it kind of just shows like, wow, this guy will do anything, for his business. It just, not to spite somebody else, but to like kind of fight somebody else. So I kind of like that from Tony. And then I saw all the Dynamite ads all over Las Vegas airport, which obviously it's WrestleMania week, and now they're going into the airport. They're not seeing WWE stuff. They're seeing AEW stuff. I like that type of stuff. But I think logistically, it was probably set in stone, because all those different companies had to come together and find a certain date. And I feel like they announced it when they did, because that's what they do for all their pay-per-views. Like even when they announced Louis Armstrong, it just seemed like, like that's what they do. Is certain months in advance we announce this show. Certain months, like they don't really, unless it's all in, like a big show, either in Texas or a huge show in London. They don't announce the shows that far in advance. That I've noticed, unless I've missed it. So I feel like logistically, CMLL, Stardom, New Japan, AEW are on the same page. They probably booked a date a year ago, and then they just decided to announce it now, so it doesn't kind of overshadow Double or Nothing, doesn't overshadow other things that they're promoting. But from a certain perspective, I kind of hope they booked it after, because it's like Wrestling War, like it's like Bischoff, old school Vince McMahon style, like screw the other guy. So in a way, I like it, but in a way, I'm like, damn, it's gonna be 2 shows to watch in one day. It's gonna be pretty impossible.
Yeah, and there's even a few things to unpack there. So from what I think it was Meltzer, somebody was saying that they were actually thinking for Forbidden Door to be in Chicago, but New Japan is there, and it'll be like around the same time. I think they still would have done well. If anything, it probably would have hurt New Japan, and maybe they're pushed back on that to say, can we find a different space there? Yeah, I think for the Vegas airport ads, I think that was brilliant. I'm surprised that there was that loophole. I guess you don't think about it till you see it, but right, WWE is so controlling of working with the Visitors Bureau. I'm sure they could have worked something out where there's no major advertising buys from municipal owned buildings or facilities, transportation. I'm not sure where an airport would fall under those things, but that probably would be something probably they'll lock that down. That'll never happen again, or billboards or anything like that. But I think if AEW is playing a role in messing around here, which I probably think they're not, why do you want to go down to TNA's level? You roll around in mud, you end up with whatever. I'm not saying TNA is that, but their AEW is more, and they've talked about this, the challenger or alternate brand to WWE. Focus on that. TNA, I think that's smart for them. Connect yourselves to AEW, get in the conversation, and that's more of a plus for them, as long as it's a positive element, but
the high spots thing for the Super Show, that makes TNA look bad, because AEW stepped up and they put their talent, and even talent that wasn't initially announced for that show, weren't going to be on the show, they stepped up and they put those guys, so that makes TNA look bad. You can't let that happen. That just gives them a one up, just even in just blindly, let's say wrestling fans, not a TNA fan or an AEW fan, if you're just walking into it wow, I like AEW more because they're giving me talent that I can watch on the show. TNA just pulled the guys. That's not right.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even know that AEW was supplementing the talent.
Yeah, Mike Bailey wasn't on that show originally.
Oh, wow. Okay. You know what? Now that I think about it, I remember seeing him in the ring, and thinking, oh, okay, I didn't realize he was going to be on the show. I didn't realize there was a connection there. So that was a smart move. So,
and I'm pretty sure the demand wasn't going to be, it was just going to be Ricochet. I don't think the 2 other guys were in it either.
Oh, wow.
Toa Leone and Bishop Khan, I don't think they were in it. So they got added. And I'm not sure. I thought Kevin Knight, I saw him on the original list for the show, but I'm not sure if even he was supposed to be on it originally. I know Michael Oku was, but so they definitely gave more than a few guys of talent to make up for TNA kind of, screwing the fans. So it's almost like Tony was basically telling Michael at High Spots, hey, I'll give you some guys to make up for it.
I think that's the history of TNA, getting momentum and then shooting themselves in the foot.
You hate TNA. What's up with that?
I know. And after I got some love for on X for saying that they're 10, 12 weeks of programming where they're averaging 250,000, is very solid and whatever. But if they hear this, I will hear about it. I'm sure. Usually,
just bad PR.
Word, usually the written word is the one that carries more. You sort of have to be interested, I guess, to push the play button. But maybe someone will clip this. So just looking at the live events. And thank you, WrestleTix, who had some final numbers. And for Rebellion, the final number went down from the estimate. So it was under 3,000. Tickets distributed 2,969, 197 vet ticks. We can assume that probably there's more free tickets distributed. Very big venue from the fan picture. that was posted. Of course, there's a lot of empty seats because it's a 13,000 seat venue. So that was that. Then at the On Center in Syracuse. Now, TNA people, the On Center is in Syracuse. You were just there. They're still using the On Center in their listings and in their poster for the Albany show. So they haven't caught that one yet, or at least when I checked yesterday. So April 14th, they did 1,314, 45 vet ticks. I guess the vet said, no, thank you, even in the War Memorial. And April 15th, 1,225, 86 vet ticks distributed there. Now, May 14th, I don't know if this is a final number yet, but sorry. I'm like speeding up, mixing up my months. It's only April 17th as we're recording this, so plenty of time. May 14th, 632 tickets distributed. May 15th in Sacramento, 620 in the same venue there. John, so we had the analysis a couple of weeks ago of the TNA tickets. I haven't had a chance to run the NXT numbers, but generally those are not doing great unless it's a special show. But how would you compare the two? And it seems clear now with Nick Khan, who had shared that Shawn Michaels asked that they get on the road more for their own development. So I had, it was a little bit unclear. Is this to make money? Is this to develop the talent? It seems like a smart play to focus on developing talent. What do you think about both touring prospects right now?
It doesn't seem like the numbers for TNA are as good as they were last year. Just obviously that's just looking at it. Haven't looked at all the numbers, but and I remember you did the analysis. The average was down by a little bit too, so that doesn't look good. The NXT thing is weird too because I feel like the numbers are down and we're down. Certain areas, certain venues do well, but then other venues you see that's like less than 1,000 tickets. So it's like, wow, it's crazy. Why even run that show? But now we kind of know. Michaels was basically saying we need to see real audiences. We need to get out of there. The canned environment of doing in the same spot in the studio, is just the same fans over and over. We got to spread it out, and they need to get real reactions. So it's great job by Nick Khan listening to Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels hit the nail on the head. They need more reps. They need to get out in front of real fans, real crowds. But to be honest, NXT is not very hot right now, so I don't think it'll be big crowds at all, really, coming up. Unless it's the theater at MSG, then yeah. But other than that, no.
The way they think about it, and of course, it's easy to say it, but you'd have to scale up in terms of employees or shift their resources or time value of it. And for something like WWE, they're focused on the bigger picture. But I think doing it old school would actually be effective. I've talked about this a few years ago. NXT is on the CW affiliates. So what you would do is really work in conjunction with the affiliates when you have shows coming to the area, like schedule the talent to just like be baked into the local news or programming. Have a table from the CW, kind of like a goodwill table, whether it's a local news anchor or whatever it may be, like really bake it in to the process. Ring of Honor wasn't always killing it with attendance, but I think one of the smart things that they did was, and they own the station, so it was easier, but they would work with their affiliates and like it became like part of the fabric of things rather than just passing through. I think it's a unique opportunity to have a product, that's distributed so locally and it's not, in the ether on Netflix or whatever it may be. And you could really work with like local institutions. So that would be something to consider if they want to scale it up. It might just be like, we don't want to dedicate a budget or resources to this. So if we get on the road and, maybe assuming that they lose X amount of dollars for every show, it's worth it because we're developing, the talent of the future, which should be, in terms of developmental brand. I know it switches between developmental and the third brand all the time. Yep. So, John, last time I wasn't as well prepared, to talk about all these new venues announced by TNA. But with the help of Grok, I want to kind of like talk about the schedule upcoming. So, Denver, Colorado, June 6th and 7th at the National Western Center. This can hold 5,000 to 10,000 depending on configuration. It's often listed as 5,000 to 6,000 setups. It serves rodeos, concerts, sports, and expos in the area. June represents their debut there. This venue may be the first time that wrestling is there. If you're aware of it having been there before, let us know. In the Agganis Arena in Boston, this has a setup capacity of 7,200, expandable to around 8,000. Located on the Boston University campus, it functions as a multi-purpose venue. TNA has a strong history here. It hosted Slammiversary 11 on June 2nd, 2013. Attendance 3,800. So that's something to think about. I know last year they claimed nearly double this for their record or whatever, but that would be the first milestone that they should seek to surpass, and that would be quite good if they could do that. June 28th, 26th Slammiversary marks the return. The arena has also hosted AEW Dynamite and Dark tapings in 2019. I think that was right, like one of the first shows. It was Washington, Philadelphia, and I think they were in Boston not too long after that. NXT events have been here and so on. The MVP Arena, which we talked about before, not the On Center, formerly known as the Times Union Center, Pepsi Arena, Knickerbocker Arena, certainly a very large venue, a regular site for WWE and even Raw back in the day. I don't think they've been there too frequently recently. Maximum capacity of 15,500. Licoris Center, of course, a prior AEW venue. This is in Temple University. It holds over 10,000 people. TNA has hosted Lockdown here and Bound for Glory in 2011. Credit Union One Arena in Chicago. I love that this is the UIC Pavilion. Very like NWA vibes, and I think that's like a smart thing to connect to that history if they do make that connection. This has hosted several Bound for Glories in the past, 2008, 2019, 2020. Actually, Chicago has, excuse me. This is one of their first times at the venue, or maybe even their first time. And of course, like I mentioned, Jim Crockett and the NWA had taped here, WWF televisions in the past. Brampton, August 27th and 28th, CAA Center, formerly the Powerade Center, is a mid-sized venue for up to 5,000. They did quite well there last May, and a couple of dates not yet announced. So, John, what do you think about these venues? Some of them are quite large. Some of them are more traditional for them.
I feel like, man, some of them I'm like, why would you? Even the Licoris Center, I wouldn't even really kind of touch that. I know they used to go there, and they've done obviously shows there before. I don't know. I would have rather them gone to the arena again because you're going to sell out the arena. It's going to be a hot crowd. So some of them I think are too big for their britches. Maybe if you're super hot, you do that, but they're not super hot.
Yeah. I think like sometimes the way that you shoot it, you could make something of it, kind of like, and totally different scope, but in Buffalo, when ECW used to go there, it was like one of their few venues on television where you'd see like the risers, and it looked like a big audience there. And
Yep.
I remember first seeing a clip a few years ago that was reshared this week, and like you could see like two of the wrestlers fighting in like the upper bleachers, and it's like completely empty. And like I wasn't surprised, but my mind was sort of blown just because it seems so full. Like, you really have to know what you're doing, but not have like the debut night for TNA when you have like a celebrity and then behind them is nobody. New Japan now, John. So we talked about the Forbidden Door, but July 11th, it's moving along a little bit slower than previously, but that's to be expected, right? The people most excited would buy the tickets first. So 2,527 in the venue. So it is interesting, not that New Japan would have burned out the city for Forbidden Door, but the fact that AEW is staying away. Do you think that's like sort of out of respect for New Japan?
I would hope so, and I would kind of maybe think so, but who knows? Because it just seems like sometimes they will just kind of not crap on New Japan, but sometimes it's like they just ignore the relationship, and sometimes they don't. So it's an odd thing with New Japan and AEW.
Yeah, they haven't been traditionally the best partner with like AAA and New Japan and TNA. But I think the CMLL one is probably their strongest one, and maybe they're learning to be better partners as Tony Khan matures.
Do you think that's a crazy setup though? You set up for 7,000, you only sell 2,000 tickets. Is that crazy?
I guess it's sort of like you can cut it off and then move people down. If there's a number in the risers and so on, like it's not going to cost them more. Maybe there's like a little bit of like wiggle room, like you have to pay for less security and ticket takers and whatever, like if you can confirm or estimate what the number will be weeks out. But they seem to like this venue and they tend to do well. And hey, 2,500 and they're 3 months out. I don't think they'll get 7,000, but if they get 4,000 and they have to move some people down, I think they'll be okay.
What is going on with GCW right now?
Yeah, so firstly, the collective and things are moving quickly here through WrestleMania week. As we're recording this, it's a Friday, so a number of shows have already taken place. So the Pottermania and Dragon Gate. So neither in advance seem to have done well. Really, like second row tickets. Like I question over Dragon Gate. Like you're coming all the way from Japan, and there's tickets like left in the second row. I guess it keeps you in the conversation and relevant, but that just makes sense to me. And Hybrid and PWU, they were just tickets available in the third row in advance. But this was kind of like, and even Progress, second row tickets available. They might have been into the third row by the time that the show started. Mark Hitchcock Memorial, a few tickets left in the fourth row in advance. Maybe they were into the fifth row. And that was like, some of these shows were like pre-collective, the first couple, 2 or maybe 3 even. So you wouldn't have that great expectations for a Wednesday, but still. So that was pretty weak starting out. I mean, maybe the Mark Hitchcock one was met expectations, but I can't see a celebration of any of the other 3. But where things really picked up, and it's hard to tell with the GA, but when GCW added at towards the end there in 8th row and that sold out, you could tell that the show did fairly well. So the Death Vegas Invitational, so that was sold out 8 rows deep and beyond. John, did you see any clips about it? I haven't really seen too much about that.
I've been purposely, not for that reason, just because I don't want to see any like WrestleMania spoilers, because these people love posting stuff. So I've kind of been staying away from social media for a little bit, just because I don't want to be inundated. Because even if you're looking up one certain thing, it just pops up. Like the other night, I was looking up something and specifically kept away from Dynamite spoilers because I didn't watch it yet, and then something popped up and I was like, how is that possible? I wasn't even looking for it. I was like, what the hell? So yeah, I've been kind of avoiding it. I'll catch up on everything basically after Monday, probably after Mania.
You wanted to avoid what's happening in the world title match, but it came across your radar.
Yes. It's like Frank Costanza when he's talking at the dinner table, how he wants to go into the movie fresh. They're like, but it has nothing to do with the plot. And they're like, doesn't matter. I like to go into the movie fresh. I want nothing. I don't want to see anything. So I'm going into Mania fresh. So I even the High Spot Super Show, I'm definitely going to check out. But I was like avoiding any sort of like, oh, The Rock's in Vegas this week or any of that sort of nonsense.
Actually, I won't talk about that because it could go one way or another. But but that does remind me of my friend's dad, who when I first met him, he scared me, but then like he came to become like somebody that like I really saw as like sometimes very close with. Super sports fan, and if he was out, he did not want to know. Like, he was okay with listening on the radio. So if he was able to listen on the radio, like he'd be fine, the Giants game or Knicks or Yankees. But if he was recording it, the radio must be off. No one talk about the game because he was going to go home and watch it on his VCR when he got home. And if you screwed it up for him, you were in trouble. Kind of like it reminded me of at that time, like the dad from the Wonder Years. Who's kind of like a little bit angry and grumpy. But yeah, the spoilers for that. So progressing through the MDK Fight Club, 5th row ringside was available pre-showtime. Gringo Loco, 4th and 5th row. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, so that let's see. I'm trying to do Vegas time. No, that certainly hasn't happened yet. That had 8th row sold out. And apparently Steve Austin is going to watch it. We'll see. And Mick Khan. Spring Break, the same, 8th row sold out. And, the real surprise momentum here is the Juggalo Wrestling. Of course, talking about it with Brett Lauderdale in whatever number or non-number special episode of the business of the business.
Non-numbered, yes.
But, if we could use Wrestlemania weekend as a barometer of who's hot, the Juggalos is hot, right? Like maybe it's like, that's what it's all about, hot shotting it and spectacle and whatever. But like people are talking about it. The show is selling tickets. Imagine going to Spring Break, right? 7 to 10:30. And then you have to step out for an hour and a half and then coming back for Juggalo Wrestling. That's kind of like,
I like it.
Yeah, you need a lot of coffee or something. Fago, I guess that has a lot of sugar, right? Keep you awake. Effie Spring Break doing fairly well in advance. 6th row is still available. Last I checked, 6th row for the Cluster F. So what do we make out of all this? So there's about 4 collective shows that are doing excellent, 3 to 4 that did fairly well, and 3 to 4, and I know I'm exceeding the total, 3 to 4 that didn't do well at all.
Gotcha.
So when you add this up, I would assume this venue was cheaper than the theater that's in use this year and caused them some consternation last year, apparently. So it would be less total people, but maybe less total cost. But I don't know. Like, do you think like the collective and we're just evaluating this, trying to figure it out from a business perspective. Do you think the collective still like has that same cachet? Because there's a number of players that used to be there that aren't there anymore in terms of the big arenas. You don't have New Japan running a big arena. Obviously, Ring of Honor, that sort of stuff isn't there anymore. So it's just more peripheral, like the collective and Slam Fest.
I think certain parts of it definitely are still popular and definitely still over, if you will. I just feel like it's not, like you said, like losing Ring of Honor, just a bunch of things that weren't necessarily there that have been in the past. Plus, I think Vegas this year running it back to back, that's kind of exhausting.
Yeah, and like for WrestleCon, there haven't been a lot of new superstars or legends on the market, right? Like, what do you have as a different draw? So if you've gone the last 7 years, and it's wonderful to meet whomever it may be, Honky Tonk Man, Demolition, whomever. But like to do it again, like what would you get from it? Like, do you need another picture, some more merchandise? That's just like, what's the new draw? Maybe like having a year off if they do make it to Saudi Arabia, maybe having a year off, like, freshens things up. Maybe it's not the worst thing, John.
Yeah, that's not a bad thought. And get everybody hyped again when you bring it back.
So we'll come back because we're WrestleMania themed. It's hard to avoid, of course. But just to give a little bit of the update of GCW's upcoming shows, I'm not going to go over every one because some of them are quite early, but some of the most notable ones. May 2nd, one night only, as has been long shared. I broke the story, as they say, that the reserve tickets are all gone. They have been for a while. And when I've been searching the GA and I do 30 total to like, they say together, I guess it's by the sections. Those were available now when I searched like 25 tickets, and those are still available as well. So I don't know if you could extrapolate that to say 100 GAA tickets still available, but still plenty, but obviously doing quite well. Now, John, something that we've talked about before is that for a while it felt like GCW was like, it's a super promotion, they have the hard-hitting action, they have the technical, whatever, and like leaning away from the death match in a bit, except for isolated things. But We really see that tournament of survival in Atlantic City. It's the first time that in quite a while, John, that Atlantic City is showing some life for GCW, I guess you'd say. There's the Deathmatch Hall of Fame, then there's the Tournament of Survival, and whatever the other one is called, not Cage of Death, but whatever that one is. But Tournament of Survival, and it's still 6 weeks out. The fifth row is available, so moving along relatively well there. Do you think, I guess GCW wouldn't want to move away from the death match, but do you think it's become more important than ever just because of the struggles in generally selling tickets on the independent scene?
It's interesting because it's like, do you want to attract more fans, or do you want to make sure you get your hardcore fan base, which obviously loves the deathmatch stuff? But I feel like if you do it and put like a certain name attached to it, it might get some appeal to it. So it's like hit or miss, like 50-50 to me, because it's like you want to stay true to that, but you might miss out on some casuals, if you will, some fans that aren't interested. But it seems like sometimes that gets hot. I guess it just depends on maybe adding a name or saying, hey, Nick Cage will be there, or whatever. It just seems like sometimes that gets hot.
Yeah, I think it's hard, like, and we've talked about this before, to manage the brands, because for a while it's sort of like, hey, come see GCW at the baseball stadium or at
Yep.
the mall, and it felt like closer to like a mainstream appeal, meaning that fans that just like wrestling and so on. But then when you go for the death match, that's a certain thing. I think it's sometimes hard to balance it, um, but that's something important to their bottom line that. They're probably not looking to get away from it, but from a practical sense that they probably wouldn't be able to get away from it at any time. Like when I first heard of GCW, I had just assumed it was like a pure deathmatch promotion. I was wrong on that, or maybe they had shifted, through the years.
What is going on in the world of MLW right now?
Yeah, and it feels like a little funny to talk about something that has nothing to do with WrestleMania weekend, but we'll swing back.
Yeah, some news there.
Yeah, so just looking at May 9th, the Don Gato Tequila sponsored show, among many that they'll be doing. That one is, at least in terms of reserve tickets, nearly sold out. Of course, they did very well, as we talked about in Charleston. That was a sellout last time, and that's what they consider their home now. So September 12th, they'll be back. They don't run so many shows, so quite a break, though. Between shows, that's your home promotion, but they're just going to be running, once a month, if that, maybe even less so, less cities frequently if they're doing that double shot in Philadelphia. An interesting post from Alex Kane, who really was the man in MLW, and it really doesn't seem like there's a reason that he's not there anymore. But since I keep getting asked about this at every show I'm on, or I'm just going to say it, I'm not working for MLW. My contract expired last year in June. I don't have an explanation on why. Boomaye is for the people. I thought, I'm not sure, John, how familiar you are with his work, but I thought he's really solid, and it seems like he should have a better position in the business right now.
Oh, I am very familiar. And actually, if anybody wants to go into the Two-Man Power Trip archives, did a great interview with Alex Kane. We kind of broke down like what the hell's going on at MLW, all that type of stuff. But he was really like a homegrown guy. And it's interesting, like when you have a homegrown guy, quote unquote, so to speak, and he's like your champion, he's your guy. Weird, you don't just keep running with him, but it's weird that his contract is up and it's like, all right, you're gone, but we're not even going to tell you any reason or any explanation of why you're. It's just weird, right? I mean, to me, that's like kind of crazy.
Yeah, John. Actually, now that you mention, I think I remember the interview, but you always have it covered. Maybe it's something where it's sort of like, okay, you start out, and I assume it's quite a low salary, whatever it may be, and then there's some sort of contract, and you get to a certain rate, and then he becomes the champion, so you're bumping it up even more. But then maybe just things didn't work out, as well as you
Right.
expect. So it's like
Yep.
hard to like dial it back and be like, now will you take 60% of what we were offering you, and we're not really going to put you in, it's only an hour show, or if we're even
Yep.
having a weekly show, which is just returning, or in the specials, like we're not going to put you in a prime spot, so maybe you won't be happy. Kind of like that, sports analogy. If you have like the third or fourth best player on the team, I'm not saying he was at one point, he was the man there. But you have to kind of like see like, okay, is there a different way we can go about this, like to change? And I think for MLW, just very peripherally watching that, I think that was not a smart move. He'd be great. What else? June 11th at the Melrose Ballroom. That's looking solid. It's pretty much always a sellout.
I love the venue. It's a cool little venue there. So as far as the Slam Fest is concerned, give us some info on Slam Fest.
Yeah, House of Glory. They're really leading the pack there. And again, like if we talk about like what can we learn from WrestleMania weekend, Juggalos and House of Glory. Even far ahead of brands like under the same umbrella here, Stardom, CMLL, and Maple Leaf, and surprisingly, TJPW isn't doing very well at all. You would think Joshi, tends to draw well. Maybe they're passing through too much on that side of the country, and they also only have an 11 a.m. slot, so maybe Thursday 11 a.m. People were maybe getting ready for their flight or not yet there or so on, whereas the other slots are better. So that's, something to think about. But kind of overall, I mean, Slamfest is doing so many things. There's the comedy shows, signings and whatever. So, they'd have to judge it in totality. But in terms of their efforts here for live pro wrestling, probably similar to their attempts at promoting in Chicago, I would say it looks like a miss to me, John.
Yeah, not good, Bubba, as somebody once said. What about, you said you wanted to talk a little bit more about WrestleMania weekend. What about here and there? What's going on?
Yeah, John, when I was finishing the notes right before, I was like, there's no here and there. So I'm like, what if I say here and there for WrestleMania? So just one piece of here and there, and I think it's thematic here. St. Louis Heart and Anarchy ran, I think, one of the collaborative type of experiences, which is a smart thing. But we thank those who chose to give us a shot. I'm not one to sugarcoat my feelings. Not thrilled with the live show. We are a fan-funded small business supported by myself and fans. So this was a loss, but not a failure. Heard from multiple people it's the best show they went to so far. Connected with some new folks and saw a lot of friends, but my roster got to kill it. Some things are more important than money. So PW Ponderings covered this well, but disappointment from them. They have like a bit of a buzz there, especially for those that follow independent wrestling very closely. But I can't imagine that they're surprised. The last few years, and we've covered it show by show at times, John, promotions like this haven't really been able to break out. It's not like it was in New Jersey a number of years ago, or, when there was WrestleCon and Ring of Honor and New Japan and whatever, and many did well. So yep. I think the age of periphery pro wrestling, like connecting to WrestleMania weekend, you'll get your name out there a little bit. You'll be on the list of 100. But if you're thinking about it as like, let me sell tickets and make money, you'd probably do better, in your home state.
I also think too, like when you're thinking about WrestleMania weekend, WWE obviously is very cognizant that all this other stuff is going around and it's going down. They definitely amp up WWE World and go to WWE World. I noticed because Steve Austin is there. It's like, oh crap, people are gonna might be the only time you get to meet Steve Austin. So and it's gonna be expensive. So not gonna go to this and this. I'm gonna meet Steve Austin instead. Oh, Hulk Hogan has a brand new display. I'm gonna go to the display. You know what I mean? They're going to have this interview with Triple H. So they definitely, I think, take away a lot of the fans too from a lot of those other shows too during WrestleMania weekend.
That's a great point, John. I know that, and the Lucha Libre AAA,
yeah,
looked amazing awesome. With Eddie Guerrero's Los Gringo Locos full outfit and things like that. So that's an experience, but I think there is room for an alternative, but how many alternatives? I think for WWE, and I think they've calmed down about this a little bit, where you're trying to get every building not to rent out, and people can't be within a certain mile radius. Like, it can be like you do want it to be like a special weekend for people, and when they can see these alternatives, like in New York and New Jersey, whatever, we're spoiled a little bit because most buzzworthy promotions will pass through here. It's not too far to go if we're really interested to Philadelphia or Washington, D.C., if we're so inclined. But for those that are farther away or even internationally, like, this is their experience. So it's not going to affect the Wrestlemania number by a swing of 15,000, but it does like bake into something like that. But John, I have something to ask you, and this might be clip worthy for you. What did you think of this Hulk Hogan statue?
I liked it, but sometimes those statues don't look exactly like the guy. I always find that funny, like Flares and Dusty. Sometimes you're like, it's awesome, and I love that they do it, and it's probably spent thousands on it, but sometimes it doesn't look exactly like the guy. Hogan needs to be a little bit taller, and I'm not sure what that flag was that he was holding. It's supposed to be the USA flag. I'm not sure what the heck that was.
Yeah, John, I didn't. Yeah, I think it's very hard to like get something. Is it pewter or whatever it is? Like the cast.
Yeah.
You know what I thought of when I saw the flag? His last appearance, where he got
booed
out of the building.
The real American flag. Yeah.
Did he really carry the American flag much with him? I know he's held it up, when the opportunity's allowed, but he's not like he. I'm not going to say never. I'm sure you could cite sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He definitely has, but no, not like Duggan or somebody like that. Yeah. No, not even close. Yeah.
Like if you were going to like connect him to something, yeah, it's not completely off to like carry the American flag, but that doesn't like make as much sense. I would have him more like,
no, you would do literally the ear cup or the poses,
exactly, or like maybe midway ripping the shirt.
Sure, yes.
I'm not sure how hard it's to recreate like clothing sort of in motion on pewter, but something like that. But yeah, when I saw it, I was just like, yeah. And the picture, like I don't know if it's the official picture, but the picture showed like Jimmy Hart looked exactly like him, but Nick Hogan just looked, I don't know, it was something with the shadow. I was like, does he have like a birthmark now on his head? I mean, we would have seen it years ago, right, if it was a birthmark, but it just seemed a little bit off. So
I do love that they bring him out for stuff, though. I think that's pretty cool. Like, as far as Nick, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, hopefully he's matured. When you grow up in the public eye, obviously there was that car accident and things like that. But I know Eric Bischoff and so on has talked about his being a good, I mean, he's an adult, right? Being a good person now, and being interested in pro wrestling, whatever. And yeah, he could celebrate his dad. Nothing wrong with that. And I see Ted DiBiase Jr. is back on the market.
Here's the funny thing about DiBiase Jr. I hadn't seen anybody else mention this, but this is so funny. So he did this thing online with his lawyer, and the lawyer was saying, "Oh, we'll be in Vegas," and he was saying what date it was. And he goes, "Yeah, we'll be in Vegas on 4/19. Yep, we'll be there on 4/19." Like, just teasing the fact that he's going to be a part of Orton versus Cody. Like, that's obviously the tease. I was cracking up. I'm like, do they not even pay attention? That main event's on 4/18. It's day one main event. So it's like, even when they're trying to do something funny and cheesy and like tease the fans and like, he's joking, but like tongue in cheek, it's like, what do you just get the date right? Goddamn, like, come on, you can ruin the whole thing. Oh, you're going to interfere in Punk versus Roman? Like, come on. So I know him and his lawyer were joking around, but come on, get the date right there, guys. At least tease the fans with the possibility of you showing up for Cody versus Cody versus Orton in that main event. But get the date.
Yeah, and not encouraging anyone if you're in Las Vegas to do this, but just something funny. If you stand online, you got to pay for his autograph. He'll be like, oh, okay, how do you who do I make it out to? You'll be like, MISSISSIPPI.
Hey, he's innocent of all charges. Come on.
That's true. He is innocent.
Yes. After everybody said for 7 years he was guilty, he was actually ended up being innocent after all. So
which I'm completely shocked by, but the law has spoken.
Yes. Can't argue with the law right now. Ted DiBiase. To be honest, though, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, I'd rather have Ted DiBiase Jr., and I don't even care if about that controversy because he is innocent. I wouldn't care if he was the guy on the phone. Anybody but McAfee. Like, that would have been 10 times better if it was right. If it was DiBiase's kid on the phone, like, that would have been so much better than Pat McAfee.
You know what? It's like I'm so like disconnected. It's not the first time I'm hearing about this, but like I kind of like peripherally, I kind of understand, but not exactly.
So bad. So Orton is talking to somebody on the phone for weeks about not the only royal family in wrestling. You would assume it's his dad. You would assume it, or if it was, you assume it's somebody with wrestling lineage, Vince McMahon, The Rock, Ted DiBiase Jr., or even in a weird way, could even have been Kevin Owens, and them talking about more than one wrestling royal family because Cody kind of ended Owens' career in a sense with that ladder match. So it's like, okay, maybe he's trying to get Orton going again and talking about how he's got the royal family, not the Rhodes, and get some revenge. Nope, it just ended up being Pat McAfee on the phone, and McAfee said that Orton was calling him. The whole time, Orton said this person had been calling him. So McAfee even got the storyline wrong in his head of like who was calling who, and he flipped it. Then he said Orton was a part of the Attitude Era. And I love that Cody brought this up. He goes, Randy Orton was in high school during the Attitude Era, Pat. Like, he goes, how stoned are you? How high are you? He wouldn't take off his glasses. I was like, man, like, you don't have to be high to get that wrong. You just have to be not a wrestling fan, have no clue to get that wrong. And that's exactly what he is. He's just clueless. So bad in this role.
He was either in high school or in the army army jail for
About to
for a
get
little
kicked
while.
out. Yeah, ROTC is about to get
But
kicked
not
out.
not too long after that, and to show you what tonight filled out my fandom. To show you what type of fan I was, I actually would order occasionally. I don't have the whole run OVW tapes at the time,
Whoa!
and that was
Wow!
actually it's actually funny. Like both Randy Orton and Jeff Jarrett, my favorite period for both is that like white meat baby face, like when they were just breaking out on the scene. I don't know why. It was just both of them. That's just when I like them. But OVW, of course, that was like so much fun with Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin and John Cena, Batista, and then all the Louisville people who were better wrestlers at the time, of course, because they were there to help them train. But that was really a fun period.
Lavie, good stuff here. We went through the gamut. We went through a lot of good stuff. So let's wrap it up and head towards the plugs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Dr. M?
Follow me on X, including my pictures with Campbell McLaren, the co-creator of the UFC at Lavie Mark, LAVIE MARG. Check out my book, Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House. What's nice, I've seen a little bit of bump in both Trump Mania books. So maybe having at the bottom that says author of Trump Mania is getting the word out. And of course, we're still 2 away, 148 members of the LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business. So we need you and a friend to join so we can celebrate.
All right, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. See you next week, folks.